What's up, world? I'm Cameron McKinney, and this is Pop Culture Spotlight, a podcast about the movie The Death of Robin Hood. Here's a quick synopsis. A weary and aged Robin Hood is asked by Little John to help fight for his home. When Robin becomes badly injured, John leaves him at a secret nunnery to heal. The film stars Hugh Jackman, Jodie Comer, Bill Skarsgård, Murray Bartlett, and Noah Jupe. Standout performances. Here's a list of notable actors who have portrayed Robin Hood. Sean Connery in 1976's Robin and Marian, Kevin Costner in 1991's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Cary Elwes in 1993's Robin Hood Men in Tights, Russell Crowe in 2010's Robin Hood, and Taron Egerton in 2018's Robin Hood. Now you have Hugh Jackman in The Death of Robin Hood, and it's a hard part for an actor to play because it's such a leading man role. We all have our perceptions about the character, and in a lot of the movies I mentioned, the leading man playing Robin gets outshined by an actor in a supporting role. What people remember about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves is Alan Rickman, not Kevin Costner, who's just okay in that movie. And then in Ridley Scott's Robin Hood, people praise Oscar Isaac. They do not talk about Russell Crowe. I would argue in the past this has not been a great part for movie stars, because those other movies have not really been all that interested in the character of Robin Hood himself. Why this movie works is because it's built around Robin Hood, played by Hugh Jackman. And I have to imagine that Jackman was the ideal pick for Robin Hood because not only is he a giant movie star, but also because of the movie Logan. There's some real similarities between that film and this one. In both, Jackman is a weary man who's become a reluctant father figure. Jackman, in my humble opinion, has not done this enough in his career. I get it. He's a talented actor who can sing and dance, and he's charming. But I personally tend to lean towards his darker movies. Of the non-Wolverine films, my favorites are The Prestige. I find it odd when people say it's their favorite Nolan, but it's still a great film. Prisoners, his work in that is underrated. The Frontrunner, playing presidential candidate Gary Hart, and Bad Education. The latter two play with the persona of Hugh Jackman. He starts those films as likable and charming, but end them in a completely different way. Hugh Jackman is why The Death of Robin Hood is good. His version of Robin Hood is not the guy stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. In fact, the character himself mocks the myths about him in the movie. In that sense, it reminded me about Brad Pitt's Jesse James in The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. I like Jackman going back and forth between crowd pleasers like Deadpool and Wolverine and The Sheep Detectives and darker dramas like The Death of Robin Hood. Hugh Jackman is next attached to an adaptation of Treasure Island from director Sir Ridley Scott. Jodie Comer is brilliant in every movie she's in. Right now, I want to highlight her work in medieval period piece films. First, with The Last Duel, the first film I ever saw her in. I will never understand her not getting an Oscar nomination in that film. And in The Death of Robin Hood, she plays Sister Bridget, who is helping Robin Hood recover. However, she thinks his name is Randolph. I feel like an unfair criticism of this actress is that she goes over the top with her performances in The Bike Riders and 28 Years Later. Yes, they are big, but it's warranted in those films. She's very subtle in The Death of Robin Hood. She really fits these period piece movies. I mean, I think, as much as I liked Ridley Scott's Napoleon, I think that movie would have been way better with her in it. She had to drop out of that film. Comer is great and has become one of my favorite actresses. Bill Skarsgård is an actor who makes strong choices when it comes to the voices of his characters. Just watch Robert Eggers as Nosferatu. At first, I was taken aback by his version of Little John. I found him to be effective overall in the film, but I could definitely see somebody being turned off by him in this movie. He's just not the Little John you're used to seeing. He's way better, though, than Jamie Foxx's interpretation in the 2018 film. That right there is the problem with playing characters who have been played over and over again. We all have our favorite Robin Hood. Hoods. We all have our favorite Little Johns. So when a new one comes out, it's impossible not to compare it to what has happened in the past. And finally, as a child actor, Noah Jupe gave noteworthy performances in A Quiet Place, Ford v Ferrari, Honey Boy, and the HBO miniseries The Undoing, and now he's becoming a more than capable character actor who's given crucial moments, first in Chloe Zhao's Hamnet, playing an actor in Shakespeare's play, in The Death of Robin Hood, playing Godwin, and I won't spoil anything at all. All I will say is he's thinking about doing an unthinkable act. His big moment with Jackman's Robin Hood is the best moment in the movie for me. It's the moment where Jackman's Robin Hood shows true regret for what has happened in his lifetime and does not wish to see somebody turn out like he has. The Death of Robin Hood is the third film from writer-director Michael Sarnoski I've talked about on this podcast, and I think he's proven to be one of the best filmmakers working today. Pig, A Quiet Place Day One, and The Death of Robin Hood are all great movies that are not about plot. They are about grief, regret, human emotions. They are character-driven films and have three great leading performances from Nicolas Cage, Lupita Nyong'o, and Hugh Jackman, respectively. I would say that he takes his movies very seriously, and I don't mean that as a critique. They're just not the funniest movies you've ever seen. I mean, Pig has its moments of humor, but that's a heartfelt film that is really going for something. The same for A Quiet Place Day One. Sarnoski has become somebody that I wished a major studio would give $100 million budget to make whatever movie he wants to make. I like that he's making movies within well-known properties like A Quiet Place and now with Robin Hood, but I would like to see him make an original movie like Pig, but be given an unlimited budget. I mean, he has proven himself. The problem is, this movie is not going to end up being a hit, so it's probably not going to propel his career any further. I don't believe he made this movie to be a hit. I think he thought it would make more money than what it's making, but you get Hugh Jackman, and you think you're going to get a pretty good audience for a movie about Robin Hood. That sadly has not been the case. So one wonders what is next for the career of Michael Sarnoski. I don't think he's going to be making a Marvel movie anytime soon, although if he does end up making a Marvel movie, I trust his intention. I don't think this is a guy who's ever going to sell out. I think he's going to challenge himself and audiences alike. I know sometimes people ask the question, who is this movie for? Who wants this movie? I don't think you want to live in a world full of directors who make movies that are crowd pleasers. Yes, every once in a while you want a crowd pleasing movie, but for the most part, I want to be challenged. I want to be given a movie I didn't even know I wanted, and Michael Sarnoski has delivered that 3 times. And most importantly for me, has become somebody I want to see my favorite movie stars work with. I mean, again, 3 incredible performances. Nicolas Cage, in my humble opinion, should have won an Oscar for Pig. Lupita Nyong'o should have been nominated for an Oscar for A Quiet Place Day One. And Hugh Jackman is doing some of the best acting of his career in The Death of Robin Hood. I'm a little annoyed to the overall reactions to The Death of Robin Hood. You have critics saying this is too different to the Robin Hood lore. My counterpoint to that is, the movies always feel different. All of them are singular and distinct in both good and bad ways. Disney's animated Robin Hood is a kid's movie. 2018's Robin Hood basically tries to make the character into a superhero. Maybe it's fair to say that audiences don't want a dark version of this character. They also rejected Russell Crowe's movie as well. But popularity does not dictate quality, and I have a really hard time believing that many people care about the lore of Robin Hood enough that it's inexcusable to change it. There has never been a consensus great live-action Robin Hood movie. There has never been a consensus great King Arthur movie, and there has also never been a great consensus Peter Pan live-action movie. Yet, for whatever reason, and it really interests me, directors keep coming back to these properties because they they think they have the thing that is going to make people fall in love with the story over again. One of my favorite filmmakers is David Lowery. He's made his version of a King Arthur movie in The Green Knight, and he made his version of a Peter Pan movie with Peter Pan and Wendy. I really like both of those movies. I, of course, like The Green Knight more, but there are people that reject both of them because they are fresh takes on a story that's been told over and over and over again. And that is exactly what is happening with Michael Sarnoski and the death of Robin Hood. People are saying this is way too gory for a Robin Hood movie. I'm used to a guy having a lot of fun, stealing from the rich, having a love interest in Marion, having a good old time. It feels like what audience are saying is we don't want an aging Robin Hood. I mean, Sean Connery once delivered one in Robin and Marion, but that movie is more of a romantic film. This is just about an aging old Robin Hood who isn't very happy. I mean, it's weird to compare this to Steven Spielberg's Hook, but people rejected that film in a way because they didn't want to see a grown-up version of Peter Pan played by Robin Williams. In a way, this is Disney's fault because all three of the properties I'm talking about have been adapted by Disney. With Peter Pan, you have their animated version of Peter Pan. You have their animated version of King Arthur with the Sword and the Stone. And with Robin Hood, you have their animated version of Robin Hood where he's a cartoon talking fox. These are the versions of the characters that most people think about. So when you go astray from those, people are going to have questions about the movies you're making. General audiences want Robin Hood to be a hero and they want Little John to be a wisecracking sidekick. That is not the case in The Death of Robin Hood. It is far from it. This is a dark movie about a guy who is not happy being Robin Hood. Box office, it has not been great for The Death of Robin Hood, and so far it's only made $3 million. I have to second guess it coming out during the same time as Toy Story 5. Yes, in 2015, you could make the counter-programming argument because this is a movie for adults, that is a movie for children. But this is 2026. Just pick a weekend where there's little to none competition and this movie would have fared better. There is no world where The Death of Robin Hood is a movie that makes $50 million, but there is a world where I could see it making $20 million domestically if it's the only movie that weekend. I am one of the rare people who wanted to see The Death of Robin Hood over Toy Story 5. The majority saw Toy Story 5, not only because they have kids, because that's the movie that's having a moment. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's no world in which The Death of Robin Hood has a moment, but I have to think they could have picked a weekend where they could have made more than $3 million. I find it kind of troubling that we live in a world where this movie isn't going to make back its box office in theaters. I mean, it's a $20 million budget. It's probably not going to make that number back. This is Hugh Jackman. This is a big deal. I think it was a big deal, him playing Robin Hood. This was a highly anticipated movie for me because I've been tracking the career of Hugh Jackman. I care about Jodie Comer and I care about Michael Sarnoski. I feel like I talk about this a lot and probably too much. People do not follow actors like they used to. People do not follow filmmakers like they used to. And that is a bad sign for movies. They don't care about the next Hugh Jackman movie. They just want to see him do the thing they like him doing, which is playing Wolverine. I don't even think the average person cares about their favorite actor winning an Oscar anymore. I think that used to be more of a thing. I just think they want him to be the thing they want him to be, which again is Wolverine in 12 X-Men movies or whatever number we're at right now. This is what I'm talking about. People followed the career of Kevin Costner. When he played Robin Hood, his version of it made $390 million at the box office because people people cared about Kevin Costner. That's why they saw that movie. They said, this is a giant movie star. We are going to watch whatever movie he makes. Oh, he's going to do a weird English accent and play Robin Hood. We're all for it. Even Robin Hood Men in Tights had a $20 million budget. It made $70 million. Russell Crowe's Robin Hood was a blockbuster. It cost a giant amount of money, but it still made $321 million at the box office. Not a giant hit because of what it cost, but still people cared about this movie because of Russell Crowe. And Taron Egerton's Robin Hood, which felt like a video game when I was watching it, cost $100 million and only made $86 million. But the death of Robin Hood is going to come nowhere near close to those numbers. And is it because of the type of movie they made about Robin Hood, or because of how going to the movies have evolved even over the last 8 years? I don't know how high of a praise this is, but The Death of Robin Hood is my favorite live action adaptation of this character. It's a real movie. It's going for something. There are great performances in it from Hugh Jackman and Jodie Comer. There's a director trying to make a good movie and not attempting to making a crowd-pleasing hit. Oscar chances. Sadly, because of the reaction and the lack of box office success, I don't see a lot of Oscar nominations coming the way of The Death of Robin Hood. Do I think there should be some? Absolutely. Hugh Jackman should be in the conversation for Best Leading Actor. This is one of the best performances of 2026 so far. It's one of the best of Hugh Jackman's career. He's got one career Oscar nomination and he should be adding another, but sadly he won't be. I would also nominate Jodie Comer if I could. She is the best actress working today who has not yet received an Oscar nomination. The other thing about this movie that I think should be celebrated is its cinematography. This is a great looking movie about Robin Hood. I was just talking about Taron Egerton's Robin Hood, a movie I don't hate. I think it's bad. I don't think it's as bad as most people think it's bad, but it is a bad looking movie. They shot The Death of Robin Hood in a real place. There's no CGI. It is one of the best looking films of 2026. People are beating up on The Death of Robin Hood because it's a bit of a downer. It doesn't have Robin Hood and his merry men singing songs and having a great time. It doesn't have Maid Marian, and it doesn't have a happy ending. It's a Robin Hood movie for adults, but weirdly adults are the ones rejecting this film. My take on all of those other movies about Robin Hood, they are just a good time. They are a fun time. I watch them, I enjoy them, but then I don't think about them much afterwards. That is not going to be the case with The Death of Robin Hood. I am still thinking about specific scenes. The one between Hugh Jackman and Noah Jupe, I think, is one of the best scenes of the year so far. This is a movie that is going to stay with me, and it's why I think it's the far superior film about Robin Hood. I don't care if Robin Hood is heroic. I don't care if you turn him into an Indiana Jones type figure, if you turn him into a superhero. I want a great film, and I think Michael Sarnoski has delivered as close to a great film as there's ever been about Robin Hood. This is just an example of how it's impossible to please everybody when you're making a movie about an iconic character. It goes back to what I was saying about King Arthur and Peter Pan as well. People have their opinions about what movies about those characters should be. And when you do something different, there are going to be very loud detractors about the film you've made. I am more than happy to be a loud supporter of this movie because this is what I want my movie stars to be doing. Yes, I want to see Hugh Jackman play Wolverine from time to time, but I never want that to be his only thing. I want him to make movies like The Death of Robin Hood. This is a good note to end on. The thing that that annoys me the most about the reaction to this movie is the same people that are saying this isn't my Robin Hood would be displeased if Michael Sarnoski made the Robin Hood movie like the ones you've already seen. Like if he made a swashbuckling adventure, they would say this is fine, but it's just another Robin Hood movie. They added nothing new to the story. So they want you to be different, but if you're too different, they're upset with how different you are. That is upsetting to me. And the death of Robin Hood deserves better than that. It should not matter how you feel about the other Robin Hood movies. It's just about the quality of this one, which I'll repeat, the death of Robin Hood is far from a perfect movie, but I do think it's a great movie that should be receiving more attention. Thanks for listening to this edition of Pop Culture Spotlight. I'm Cameron McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Thursday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I highly recommend you check out The Death of Robin Hood. Next week on the podcast, I'm talking about the film Tuner, starring Leo Woodall, Dustin Hoffman, and Havana Rose Liu. So tune into that and please rate, review, and subscribe.